gotten into spring practice now and had a chance to kind of see where you are position-wise with these guys. You know, give me a confidence level right now, kind of a 30,000-foot view.
Yeah, I mean, it's we really haven't done too much. I mean, we've only probably been on the field about 7 or 8 days, and half of those were iced in or rained in. But like our group, we had good fall. They've come back in really good shape, ready to go. We got outside and got to practice last night on the field, which was really nice. So guys are right where they need to be right now. You know, today starts first scrimmages, so we really get to see the pitchers get out there, throw, and compete as we start to build up some volume. But position player-wise, man, that group's got a chance to be pretty special. So trying to find out, you know, there's a lot of competition going on. So just trying to figure out where guys are going to play and do. But it's a fun group.
Robbie, as far as the pitchers are concerned, I know you're really excited about Coach Parker. I mean, what's been your impressions of him from the fall and coming into the spring now, and what he's going to be able to do with your guys?
I think he's built a great relationship with those guys, so I think there's a lot of trust going on right now. And even going from fall to now, man, it's still been a lot of growth. I think they learned a lot in the fall, but putting it in the middle of a game was probably a little bit tougher. I think they're a little more confident, a little more comfortable with what he's teaching and doing. And, you know, he has a great, you know, relationship with those guys. I think they've really bought in, and it's an exciting group to watch.
Tanner?
Coach, you talked about that position group a little bit. Are there any spots on it right now that are kind of more wide open than others?
Man, it's you got some real competition. There's probably an outfield spot or two, you know, out there as guys are competing and doing. There's that middle infield for me is going to be real competitive because I got a couple guys going for 2 spots, and so you know, there's a lot going on there. Who's the DH? Who falls in those roles? I think you know, but there are some spots out there that guys have won. I mean, you know, Dakota's played a really good right field. You know, Hunter at first. You know, you got some things going on there, but there still is a lot of competition in a lot of ways that I can manage and possibly play somebody. We're playing a lot of secondary positions right now. So you know, Bryce Chance is playing left field and second. You know, you got some guys. My middle infielders are playing a little bit of everywhere, giving us some flexibility.
Bradley?
Hey, Coach. Bradley Davis, Plug Jackson. Good to meet you.
You too.
Thank you. So, you know, you mentioned the pitching staff. I know you brought some new pieces in. So, how, you know, what's your pulse check on how those guys are fitting in? And is there a pitcher that you think has really stepped up in the offseason that you think can take a big role?
Well, you know, we brought in a lot of arms. You know, there's a lot of new arms. There's a lot of injured arms back, which I think is a real positive for us. You know, I mean, overall, the whole group's made jumps, and I think that's what's exciting. The Colby Holcombs, the Nate Domes, the Durangelos, the, you know, Bradley Lofton, and then some of those new guys. Cal Stevens been real impressive coming back, and so there's a handful of those guys. I mean, it's collectively as a group, everybody getting better, and so we had they're very talented. Now they just got to pitch good. I think that's one of the biggest things. Throw more strikes, manage innings better, hold the running game better, do all the little things that great pitchers do.
Steve?
One quick one.
Now you get one at a time.
The back end. How do you? What's your comfort level right now with the pieces you have, and how right now would you kind of see that play now?
Well, I don't see us having the Landon Sims guy. You know, it's not going to be one guy slamming the door. I think there's a lot of little pieces back there right now. I think as we figure out who the weekend rotation is, there's a lot of competition there. Then the odd man out may be getting to that point. The odd man out will probably be real pissed at that point having to go there. That's just how it goes. Everybody wants to be a starter. But I think we have a lot of pieces back there coming back. You know, Stone's in the process of coming back. So Stone Simmons has done it. He was a closer here. I feel real comfortable with him. You know, you got a guy like Cam Schulke, who our fans haven't seen Cam, but he was fireman of the year last year in junior college and won a national championship. He was all Cape Cod reliever for 2 years, so he's done it against good hit pitchers. The thing with Cam is, I don't know if he's a closer, which he can close, or is he just the guy to win the game in the 7th when everything's on fire? You know, I think you can use Cam in so many ways. You know, we got Pico coming back, and Pico is getting real close, and I think a guy like Pico, not being that he can't throw 75 pitches probably, and as he's coming back, I think Pico could be a real candidate there. He's looked really good in his rehab.
Doug?
Coach, what are the strengths of this year's team, and is there 1 or 2 challenges that you're still working on?
Yeah, I think so. I think the experience of our position player group, is probably one of them. I think we have, experienced guys there. I think the depth of the pitching staff could really end up being a strength of this ball club. I think it has to be. We've brought in a handful of guys, and I think one of the big keys for us is we have, we're probably about 1 through 20 with arms right now that we feel like we can rely on and put out there and give us a chance. So I think that should really help us out. We're just trying, we got to figure out roles right now. I think that's the biggest thing in this 3 weeks is who's fitting into roles, who's playing, so that we can play clean baseball. We need to pitch and defend. And I think the offensive piece will come, or it may be the first thing that we have, but we have to pitch and defend if we want to play for championships.
Danny P.
Coach, come out of Larry and lead off. What do you like about him being up there?
Because he's a stat stuffer is what we call him. He does a little bit of everything. He walks more than he strikes out. He takes the HBP. He can steal a base. He can lead off the game with a home run. I mean, they're just, as you look at him across the board, he just does a lot of things. And he's 23 years old. He's gone through the SEC. He's just an older player. And he had a great fall. I mean, arguably maybe one of our better offensive players this fall, which was fun to see.
Steve.
Coach Parker talked about when he got here about making the pitchers a little more athletic, working on motion and things like that. Not just pitching mechanics, but just overall improvement physically. What about that philosophy have you seen, and how do you feel about it? And I guess, how's it been implemented so far?
It's been implemented. You can really see it. I don't know if the average person sees it, but I went and walked in bullpens the first day when we were back, and you could see how guys were moving down the mound, and it's just a lot different. The Colby Holcombs mechanically, and it is a little bit mechanically too, the Nate Domes. And as they use their lower halves better, the arms working better, you're just seeing a lot of little things in there with them, and we're seeing that across the board. Even going back, I mentioned Pico earlier. Pico spent all the time doing lower half work because he couldn't throw there in the fall, and you're just seeing it's helped his delivery, and it's helped him as he's come back from the injury. So you're seeing it across the board, and in the fall it was implemented a lot, and it was, I don't want to say it was in guys' heads, but they were just still learning it. Now it's kind of become muscle memory, and I think you're seeing that with a lot of our guys. You're seeing their analytics play up a little bit. Things are getting better on the computer, which, it matters to those guys.
Hey, Dad.
Last season, especially the first half of the season, you had some defensive issues. And you said constantly, you're like, hey, they look good in practice, but when we get on the field, it's not working. So I asked now, how do they look in practice right now? Do you think it's going to translate to what you know on the field?
I like where we're at defensively. I think we have a chance to be one of the better defensive teams out there. I really do. There's just not a lot of holes in us defensively, and I think that, knock on wood, I felt that way last year, though. We were playing really good defense, and we had some guys historically who had played good defensively, just kind of got into a rut a little bit, but I like where we're at.
Cam.
Chris, like you mentioned, quite a bit of offensive production coming back. Just when you have so much confidence in that in the lineup to put up some runs, does that kind of take some pressure off the pitching staff? And what confidence does that give them? Do you feel like?
Well, I think the offensive piece, it should give you some, but the pitching's independent in the fact that we got to get out there and get good starts. It's a lot easier to hit when you're. That was probably part of the problem last year. Is when you go out and you're down 5-0, 6-0, then the bat gets squeezed a little bit more. I think having great starts, getting ourselves out to a good, and having that confidence that we can come back. We can come back. Good offensive teams. Our team in 21, I don't know how many comebacks we had late just because they were confident in each other that we could score, and so just keep the game close. So, they both lean on each other. If we don't pitch good enough, it puts pressure, and obviously if we don't hit enough, it puts pressure. So we just got to raise both sides.
Bradley.
Coach, you can talk about one of those big pieces back with Dakota. What was it that you can shed light on that really convinced him that with your conversations that this was the right place to be, and how big was that you made that decision to stay with the program?
Well, obviously it was huge because I think Dakota's got a chance to be one of the better players in the country. There's just a lot of things behind the scenes that happen in that world. I think it really wasn't a ton of conversation. I just think he woke up and said, I'm a Mississippi State Bulldog, and I always have been. I mean, he had been committed to us since he was in the 8th grade, and I think this is in his his blood a little bit. And he's a wonderful kid. He's working his tail off, and he's as talented as there is, and so it'll be a lot of fun to watch him this year.
Robbie.
Connor made a big jump in the summer, getting reps to summer ball. I mean, what have you seen from him differently this year that's going to allow him to get on the field more this year and be a big part of your team?
You know, it was tough for him last year. He was probably one of the highest-rated portal guys that came through. He went from the transition from infield to outfield. We probably could have used him a little bit infield-wise last year, but really, he probably didn't want to as much. And got stuck behind Ledbetter and Dakota, two guys who came in who are just outplayed him. And you know, he's out there right now defensively in center field. Is really, really good and has an above-average arm. And he's just an older player who's got some pop, who can run, who can bunt. He can really do a lot of things. So I'm excited to see him. He's worked extremely hard. When everybody left for Christmas break, he stayed another week. He walks through these doors about 8 or 9 every morning before classes and hits and works out and then comes to practice later in the day. He's just very, very driven kid. He used that in the summer. I mean, he was one of the top, I think he was voted in one of the polls the top prospect in that league. I mean, there's a lot of athleticism. It's a big physical. He reminds me physically of like Jordan Westberg. It's a big, strong, fast, can do a lot of things. But, you know, he's got to get out there and prove it. But he's been really good to this point.
Hey, Dad.
2 years ago was Hunter Hines. Last year was Dakota Jordan. Do you have a freshman this year you think can come in day one and make an impact?
I do. I hate to put too much on those young guys. I mean, I love our freshman group. I mean, we have a handful of them that are really talented. I'm hoping, Dylan Cupp's going to play a bunch. Dylan Cupp turned down an opportunity to go to pro ball. Really good defender, has gained weight, become a better offensive player. Nolan Stevens is a guy, we don't see Nolan Stevens a lot in the fall. He broke his hamate bone. Sometimes having really nice facilities I think he hit 2,000 swings a day until his hamate bone broke when he got here. So he missed most of the fall, but he's a really good offensive player, outfielder. But he's also really good on the mound, and he will be used in both ways. I'm not sure where and how and what yet, but very talented player.
Steve?
Designated hitter, I know that's a fun thing to kind of figure out here in the next few weeks. Do you think you'll have an everyday designated hitter? You can play matchups, or kind of what are your thoughts on
I
that?
think it'll be more matchups, trying to keep different lineups and what we have going, because there are about 4 or 5. I mean, we have a kid, Aaron Downs, who's been here a couple years, but it's really, really special. We got rotations in multiple spots, and so is a Nolan Stevens or one of the middle infielders who's not in that game, or one of my catchers not in that game, something to that fact. I think you can do some different stuff that way. I think our flexibility, I think, is good for us. I don't think we'll have one guy who sits in that hole.
Any other questions? Robbie?
What are your thoughts on the schedule? Really difficult as always, conference play, but what do you kind of think about how it's set up, non-conference heading into conference play?
Well, we changed our mindset a little bit. Our games in Biloxi and our games in Pearl, we have 4 road games that probably no one in our league plays. And man, when you start your early season, man, we played in Pearl, then we flew to Dallas and we did some things. So my mindset was probably, let's stay home and then we'll play our Pearl games and figure out like a weekend series. I mean, going to Biloxi kind of feels like that. So I can't stop going to Biloxi. We have sold that park out. It's all Mississippi State fans. We get to recruit down there, and the high school teams get to see us. It's such a good thing. So, we put some teams on our schedule that have had a lot of success the last couple of years. I know Georgia Southern hosted a regional 2 years ago. Air Force has been really good. Evansville's got a bunch of older players back. And then, but going into conference play, we just got, it's what the SEC is now. I don't know if there's ever any easy schedules in the SEC. Maybe ours is a little harder. But it's just about going out there and grinding out your wins. I mean, I remember my first year in the league, I'm looking up and every coach in our league counts, hey man, how do you get to 15, right? And then you start looking up and man, it's tough, but the good teams go out there and take their weekends, and that's what we have to do. So we got like I said, it's just a tougher start, I think, and on the road for us is probably in the league is you're going to have to go out there and do some special things.
Danny P?
Hines, Hunter transition to first base. What do you like about him there?
He's great. What I like about him there is he doesn't have to think about his swing till the next at bat, right? Like he'll sit in the dugout and just sit there and think about his last at bat. So he gets to go out and play defense. He's actually really athletic, good defender. I hope he doesn't take his swing out to first base. That's probably my biggest fear. But and he's working. I mean, I just really like how he's working right now and getting after it. And it's fun to see him kind of mature in that role.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank y'all.
Thanks,
See y'all soon.
Thanks, Coach.